is welcoming you all to the Saudi Arabian GP that started 2021, and with Lewis Hamilton winning the Saudi Arabian GP in 2021. There are new things coming up in Saudi Arabia, but in this video we'll be analyzing some things some of these teams need to do better and to bring up in Saudi Arabia to make them better. Carefully analyze about 3 teams. That's what we'll be doing there. So Saudi Arabia will be having a new track in which they will be moving this current track to. So this current track will be moved to a new track in Jeddah, and it will be hosting F1 very soon. So they'll be having 2 or 3 tracks. They have one track already hosting FE here in Diriyah, so they'll be having another track hosting F1, and they might be building another one. In a video I made last year, I talked about this track in the expansion of their business. They are will to expand sport in Saudi Arabia, so they are building a track, and this track, carefully thought about track, and this track is very, very beautiful. We've seen the layout. I'll have a different video for you because I need to tell you about this track. Beautiful track, seriously. But this track would have 21 tons, and the first ton rises up to 70 meters, which is about 20 floors. It's going to be interesting. But it will be in their Vision 2030 program, and it's going to be in a new city called Jeddah. But currently, this Grand Prix this year will be held in Jeddah, where it has been held since 2021. And the lap record is still 1 minute 30 seconds 7/10, made by Lewis Hamilton in 2021. This track has 27 corners, is a 50 lap, and is a 6.174 kilometers. Like I said, the first race was hosted there in 2021. From Pirelli data, we're having low traction, low braking, medium lateral stress, tire stress is medium, the asphalt grip is medium, the asphalt abrasion is low, the downforce is low, which means it's a good track for running and they are going to enjoy it. Low tire deg, low tire stress, the asphalt grip is great, and the tire compounds that will be used is C2 as hard, C3 as medium, and C4 as soft tire. On Thursday, the weather will be quite better than Bahrain. On Thursday, we are going to be having 29 degrees. The weather will be better, but we are going to be having 29 degrees, but with much wind. Jeddah track is a street racing track on a normal track, but you won't really feel the wind. You won't really feel it, except on some corners. But on Friday, will be better. It will be sunny, and it will be 28 degrees. On Saturday, the main race will be 29 degrees. The wind won't be much, and it will be great. Due to the Ramadan preparation, races in Middle East for now are now Saturdays. Thursday FP1 around 2 p.m, FP2 around 6 p.m, Friday FP3 around 2:30 p.m, qualifying around 6 p.m, then Saturday the main race. Those are the major things you need to know. Then let me talk about Saudi Arabia itself. Saudi Arabia has really invested in sports, in games, and in so many things since 2019. But in 2021, since F1 came there, they've had a big break, and since then they've not looked back. Their league SPL is one of the biggest league. To me, I would say that should be the 6th biggest league in the world now. In watching, it should be the 2nd biggest league in the world, as in fan base, people watching, because they've been able to woo a lot of stars into their league, and people are still coming, and there are people like Ronaldo, Neymar, and they are doing big things in Saudi Arabia presently. Their architecture, the people are great. It's a no tax environment. That is why some people are living there and some people will keep living there, because you don't pay tax. No crime, no tax. What else are you looking for? It tells you Saudi is a great place to live in. It's a place a lot of people would love. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is in West Asia and also called Middle East. It covers the bulk of Arabian Peninsula, which has a landmass of about 2,150,000 kilometers. It is bordered by the Red Sea to the west, Jordan, Iraq, and Kuwait to the north, Persian Gulf, Qatar, and UAE to the east, Oman to the southeast, and Yemen to the south. Some few years ago, I think 2022, the Houthis blew some pipelines around Saudi Aramco, which caused a little stir, but the Grand Prix still went on and they were able to curtail it. Saudi is the only country with a coastline along both the Red Sea and Persian Gulf, and most of its terrain consists of arid desert, pure desert. And the capital and the largest city in Saudi Arabia is Riyadh. The kingdom also hosts Islam's 2 holiest cities of Mecca and Medina. People go to Mecca and Medina for holy pilgrimage. So the official language is Arabic, and the ethnic groups are just 2, Arab and Afro-Arab. The religion, Islam, Sunni, Shia. Christianity is about 4%, Hinduism, Buddhism, and others. Synonyms: Saudis or Saudi Arabians. The government is a unitary Islamic or absolute monarchy. They have a king and a crown prince who is also the prime minister. The legislature, they have none. Population census, there are about 32,175,000 people in Saudi Arabia. They generate their water. Per capita is the 15th in the world. Huge money in Saudi Arabia that made Donald Trump call trillions chicken change to them. Their currency is Saudi Riyal. That's all you need to know about Saudi, and you also need to know that it's a right-hand drive in Saudi. The favorites for the race still remain Max Verstappen, but these are the analyses I made for the team to give a better race in Saudi Arabia. what hampered Red Bull, Mercedes and Ferrari in Bahrain and how they can get ahead. Let me start with Red Bull. Some of the issues Red Bull were having in Bahrain is the upshifts and the downshifts, especially for the two drivers. Max Verstappen has been complaining about this for years, and like I said in one of my videos, I think that is with most of the cars. This is not game, this is real life. The way these cars relate in real life is different from simulations in games, so he needs to learn that. But his teammate is also complaining and he's not used to gaming. One of the things that helps Max Verstappen is he's always on sim, he's always on simulator, so he knows all the roads too well. He knows how to drive to the extreme on simulator, which helps him. His teammates also complained about braking problems and some setup problems on his own side of the garage. I think those are the only little things that hampered Red Bull, and they said they are bringing upgrades. Apart from upgrades of the podless they are bringing in Japan, they also bringing upgrades in Imola, and I think they bringing upgrades will also impact some of these complaints they've mentioned. On cooling in Bahrain, the weather was cool, and I think Mercedes went too aggressive, Ferrari too went too aggressive. Red Bull understood their car now. The car already has a lot of cooling system. Now they have cooling inlet on the side pod and two cooling inlets on the side pod on each side, then two cooling inlets behind the driver's side, and the ones behind the driver's side is cooling the MGUH and is also cooling the engine, while the ones on the side are cooling the radiator and the engine and thereabout. And they were able to do this to also minimize the drag effect of losing too much air or sucking in too much air on the car. Now when you have a steep side, that is, the air pressure can rush through a small hole, it expands inside and is able to push the air out, because it's not just rushing inside like and you think it's cooling it. It's coming inside as in under high pressure. When it gets into the big opening, it's able to cool well, so the fresh air coming, air is able to stay there, eat it up. The fresh air coming is now pushing that hot air out, so they can have very effective, good and effective cooling on their car. With those small ones on the back, it also helps, so they can have maximum cooling all through the car, so they won't suffer overheating. And I think that is a good concept for the car, even no matter how aggressive they go on engine covers, on cooling, or to open up on some tracks in which they would have to do that. I'm talking of tracks like Singapore, Austria, Mexico, yeah, still find a balance. They've done the right thing. They've been able to open a lot of pores on their cars to make their car cooler. I mean, Red Bull, they've done a whole lot of job and they're still bringing upgrade to make the car better. Then let me go to Mercedes. Now Mercedes, during the Bahrain race on Thursday, we saw a glimpse of what the car can do, especially in second practice, and on Friday also we saw some glimpse of what the car can do. But when it comes to qualifying and racing, we saw that the car was far behind par, especially on Lewis Hamilton's side, when I knew he had some setup changes in which he talked about so as to get more long racing efficiency than qualifying. But in the long run, both went away from him. And his teammates said each team has different configurations for cooling specifications, and they chose the aggressive one. So both drivers were having cooling issues on their car. Their car was overheating, and it got to a point, the first 10 to 20 laps, they started having these overheating issues, and it was so much that they were unable to cope with. They had to reduce the engine power, which would affect their braking, and that in turn was the reason why George Russell was sliding up and losing composure. Then we know they have other cooling ducts that they can use to make or to complement for that. Also, that overheating issues, they were losing about 4 to 7 tenths per lap in Bahrain, which could have brought them close to Ferrari or even ahead of Ferrari. Now, on braking issues, they were losing because they can't get enough heat into their brakes. So this cooling issue, Williams also have the same issues. It was only McLaren and Aston Martin that were more cautious. You know, coming to a track, they would have planned what they would do and the kind of package they would be able to use that would complement. But that didn't work for them. That's their cooling issue. That is on Mercedes cooling issue. On the Lewis Hamilton seat brake issue, his seat broke during the race. The setup issue also set him back. And you know, it's a new car. They're trying to find some pace, some tenths here and there on the car. I think with the upgrades Mercedes will bring, they said they will be able to make up in Jeddah. It's a street circuit, it's a fast flowing circuit. I hope they're able to make up. But Mercedes really need to look at where they are going to learn this car. They have these front wings that they've designed. Mercedes have always designed some crazy technology that others have copied and made better. The only thing they've not designed that they've made better is the DAS, because it was cancelled. We don't know if others will copy this front wing, but we can see a lot of their designs, especially from 2016. Red Bull, Ferrari have been copying, but this season they have copied Red Bull more, while Red Bull have copied them, and they've made what Mercedes could not make work. They've made it work. Now, with this anti-dive front suspension they've made, I also heard they made it on the rear, in which they can easily change their setup at the rear to keep a balance, and the overheating issues of the Mercedes can even be reduced, because I was looking at the layout of their car. On the internal components of the side pod, there are still places they can fit small radiators, like 2 each small radiators on the side, to make it cooling effective, and it won't even compromise the weight of the car. That was why I said 2 small radiators, because they brought a car this season that is purely lesser than the weight expected, which is a good one, unlike W13, which was purely overweight, the W14 to add weight issues, and this W15, they've not balanced the front to rear load on the car, which will still compromise some part of the car. So I think they need to look at more radiators and to look at that anti-dive, because that is one of the reasons why they have the anti-dive front suspension. If they can lower it to a particular point, it gives more load on the car to make them dive more forward, especially on corners. But will it give them the straight line speed they desire? I'm not sure. But Mercedes really need to look into all this and to look at what they need to do to get themselves back in 2 or 3 races. Because if Red Bull brings upgrades, will Mercedes be able to cope? Andre Newey looked at the Mercedes car and saw so many potentials. This W15, he was looking at it on Saturday and was seeing so many potentials. He made a comment that Mercedes have a lot of time that they can find in that car, which means he believes that Mercedes can find time and be competitive very soon. If they really can find the time, they can be on neck par with Red Bull from what we are seeing. But will Mercedes be able to dive into that action and find the time to make that car faster or better? We don't know yet, but we'll see what Mercedes will do. But they need to bring upgrades that will match and change the way the car reacts, because if they don't do that, that might be the end of the season. It's just a win-win for Red Bull, and they might win all the races. But Jeddah is a different circuit. It's a street circuit. Max Verstappen loves Jeddah. Sergio Perez loves Jeddah. Sergio Perez won there last year. But will they be able to cope? Will they be able to bring something that will change the way the car behaves and make the car faster and give the drivers more confidence, because they love this car? Will they give them more confidence to drive the car, to push the car to the extreme? Will they be able to increase their PU power to make the car better? Because Red Bull increasing their PU power on Saturday, we can see they were still close in qualifying. They were still close. The Mercedes of George Russell was about 2/10 away, which is cool. Charles Leclerc, even not for the mistake on turn 15 that he made, they lost about 2-3 tenths. He could have nicked the pole position, but we don't know what other issues they're fighting. But I think with Mercedes trying to do a quick, good job, there'll be a competitive team and they can take it to Red Bull. All Red Bull needs is somebody to give them a problem. They might lose it. That is Red Bull for you. They might lose, no matter how good or competitive they are. Give them trouble once, twice, they would mess up. I'm telling you. Before I go to Ferrari, I also want to add, James Allison is saying they might add a front suspension anchor because the car is well below weight limit, like I said. So they might need to do some things to make the car tougher, as in, especially on the front suspension. Like I said, they might need to do something. And he's also saying they suffered rear tire degradation. They were suffering the car, the overheating issues. They suffered rear tire degradation. They lost some time. They are looking at enhancing the rear managing degradation and improving aerodynamic efficiency by bringing the front suspension anchor. So if they can do that, that might also help the Mercedes team. Let me go to Ferrari. Ferrari did a quite decent job. Their 2 drivers are on par. They are crazy, really pushing it hard, especially Carlos Sainz looking for another seat next year. Charles Leclerc did a good job, but unfortunately he was carrying some cooling issues and also some braking issues, and he was losing tenths. That was why he was unable to be on the same par with his teammates. And in the race, Ferrari was not even the second fastest car. Aston Martin was the second fastest car. Ferrari was about 3rd or 4th fastest car, because the ass was in the hands of Nico Hülkenberg was fast. It shows the direction Ferrari are going towards. In the first 20 laps, Charles Leclerc was losing about 6 tenths per lap. They might need to bring new rear wings. Those are the things Ferrari might need to bring. New rear wings. And also, I think Ferrari also needs to look at that car, because they have a good engineering. They have maintained the rear suspension with pull rods, and the rear suspension, however, have been finally revised. They've revised it with a reduction in the element in the lower part and in the gearbox to restrict the lower part of the keel inside the diffuser. So the suspension has also been redesigned in the link position to have a better anti-squat and anti-lift effect. So this makes the car more balanced and pull it towards the ground to make the car more aerodynamic. But it is curious to point out all that, apart from Ferrari, no suspension manufacturer has made with pull rod layout at the rear. They are the only one using the pull rod layout. Others have moved to push rod. Mercedes are using push rod at the rear. I'm talking about the rear now. Red Bull are using the push rod, and Ferrari didn't want to make the switch to push rod so as not to lose the knowledge acquired on the setup of the car, and they prefer to maintain this knowledge. They've been doing this 3 years, so I think they just want to maintain it. So I think with that knowledge, I think they need to improve on that rear, their rear and the beam wings. I'm not sure they've gotten it right. That really affected them, especially during the race, and I think if they can do a good job trying to get the effect they really need, Ferrari can be good. Seriously, they have a good car. They just need some little upgrades to make the car better. Like I said, for me, if Mercedes were in good form, Mercedes would have been ahead of them in Bahrain. But coming to Jeddah, I think from what they've learned, they've been learning for 2 years now. I don't know why Ferrari are still behind. If Mercedes can learn a lot and Ferrari can learn a lot, we can see a closer battle with Red Bull. There's a possibility because it's a smooth track, it's a fast flowing track. We can see them being on par with Red Bull, and if we get this right, we can have a good competition on our hands, and that will give us the kind of competition we need this season. Ferrari also need to look at how the fight, because fighting each other in a race can also hamper or delay them or slow the team down. They will lose some tenth, especially to those ahead of them. So I think Ferrari needs to look at that and look at how they can complement with that. But in Jeddah, if they do a good job, they will be on par. McLaren said they are closer to Mercedes. I'm not sure McLaren are closer to Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton, 4-5 more laps in Bahrain, Lewis Hamilton will be ahead of Lando Norris. The McLaren did not suffer anything. So I would say McLaren are still on par with Aston Martin. They didn't suffer anything. They were not at any risk. They were not having any problem. Lewis Hamilton were PU lowered, braking issues at the rear, overheating, seat broken, and he's still saying this. I think Lando Norris is not sure of what he's saying. I think they are bringing upgrades. They really need to work together to get the right upgrades for the car. But on par with Mercedes or Ferrari, they are not close. When they bring their upgrade, they might be close. I think they have improved, but they are still far behind. The Red Bull, they are farther than they are last year to the Red Bull, and they are still far from the Mercedes and the Ferrari. I think when we get to Jeddah, we will see that. You see it clearly because they are not bringing any upgrades there, and I think Mercedes are changing some few things. Ferrari will be changing some few things. But you'll see how fast these two cars are, and I expect them to be very fast and to do a quite good job to compete. Because I don't want you guys to just look at this season that this season is over because these guys are at it again. We can still get a lot and make a lot out of this season. Thank you guys a lot. Bye.